Welcome to Not the 9 to 5,
the podcast for freelancers
by freelancers.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out,
join us as we share insights, tips and stories
to help you thrive in the world of independent work.
I'm Kat.
And I'm Francesca.
We are two freelancers exploring the highs, lows
and everything in between. So grab your coffee, kick back,
and let's dive into another episode of Not the 9 to 5.
Katheryn Siggers.
Francesca Marago.
Hello.
Hello, how are we?
I'm good.
Are we good today?
We're
How
back
we
for another
feeling?
episode.
I know.
Do you know what? I'm
What?
feeling quite buzzy.
Buzzy.
Quite energised.
Energized. Is it because of our next guest?
Yes, it is.
I know it is. We have got Rhun with us. She is a freelance copywriter and content strategist specializing in helping brands connect with their audiences through the power of strategic storytelling and relatable content. She's also a qualified PT and first aid trainer with a passion for helping people, which also led her to build her first aid training and online fitness coaching business. They're very busy lady by the sounds of it.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Did you want to say
I did have another. You just cut me off. I had more to say about Katheryn.
I'm like,
I feel like you've said enough, to be fair.
Last little point I want to make about Kat is she loves working with brands to help find their voice and create strategies that resonate and engage.
so good.
There we go. You can say it now.
Welcome, Kat. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So welcome. So tell us, where did it start? Like, you know, it sounds like from reading your bio, like you had worked in marketing. Was that in a full-time 9 to 5 job? And if so, like, how did you then get into the freelancing world?
Yeah, so my career was predominantly marketing for about 14 years. So I worked across agencies and in-house marketing, handling different marketing teams and building brands. So my whole career was just solely focused on marketing strategy. And my big passion in that was always the content side. So that's always where my heart's been anyway. And then, so up until 2 years ago, I was still in the full-time 9 to 5 role, working for a startup, which was lovely, really lovely team. And if I'm being brutally honest, it'd always been on the back of my mind to kind of step away anyway. And during sort of 2020, during the period of COVID, when we were obviously all home a lot, that was a brilliant opportunity to kind of just almost test the waters. Because obviously a lot of businesses still needed to obviously work and they still need to market themselves. And they didn't necessarily have the budget or the facilities to be able to keep going. And they couldn't, go into their offices and things. So it was a great chance for me to kind of just test it a bit and just obviously see how do I feel, how comfortable is it for me to put myself out there. And then the final sort of decision came from when I had my son 2 years ago. And he's amazing, but he's also, a toddler who needs a lot of attention. And a big thing for me was certainly in his first year. He was born in 2022. I suppose I became aware of the fact that I wanted to make sure I could be available for him, and I had flexibility of my time to be able to be available with him. So that was kind of probably the real instigator that made me say, do you know what, let's just give it a go. I've tried it, I've tested the waters, why not? And so that was predominantly marketing. So I stepped away from my corporate role and became predominantly a freelance copywriter and a content strategist. So I've initially started with that, started building up a client base. I was lucky enough that I built a few kind of contacts from during COVID when I tested the waters, and began building that up and building that as a career. And then just to really convolute things, along the way I became a first aid trainer, which was kind of just to make things, more busy for myself.
Yeah, why not?
I know,
why not throw it in? And it's really bizarre, but it's just as part of my role, because I work for a startup, you wear lots of different hats in startups. And obviously, what it's like, you just jump into different roles. And as silly as it sounds, at one point we were needing to arrange multiple different types of first aid. So whether it was mental health first aid or actual physical emergency first aid. And honestly, and it just worked out more economic in the long run to have an in-house trainer. And I thought, well, I'll take this, I would a chance to be trained, absolutely. So I was fortunate enough to obviously get the qualifications. And it was just something I really enjoyed doing. There's definitely a trend in the type of work that I do across my businesses that it's all about helping people. And I really love that. I really love working with them and helping them find the solutions that perhaps they don't know or they've not quite found yet. And with first aid training, particularly both on the paediatric and the mental health sides, I've really been able to work with a range of different audiences, both within businesses, but also local groups and organizations, and being able to help them as well facilitate, parents to be, or, groups that are struggling in different ways, but maybe haven't got access to the right kind of support. So it's just, selfishly, it's meant that I can keep kind of providing those types of services as well. And it keep life interesting as well. So.
Definitely having that variety.
Yes.
I wanted to sort of dive into the fact that you said you tested the waters a little bit with the sort of freelancing, but then when you had your child, that was sort of the turning point for you to just go straight in. Most people would say having a child would make them retract and not do stay in the 9 to 5 solid,
get the stability.
Go. But you did the opposite. So like how come you decided to go all in at that point?
I think because I think you always associate being in a full-time job or a full-time contracted role is secure, and you always see it as like that's your security and that's your stability. And I think the more I thought about my priorities changed, so the value of my time became way more important than knowing that I can get up and go to that office every day. And for me, I suppose it just made me realize that what if I look back in 10 years, would I be more grateful that I stuck in with the stability and had that consistent paycheck, which is on some level seen as the more responsible route, or do I go for it because life's too short, try and make something that I love and can build whilst being able to create a wonderful life for my son in a way that I can be there for him as and when I need to. And it very quickly became a no-brainer for me, and I'd rather risk it, try and make it happen, and then than not ever giving it a try at all.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like you've really been able to create that balance for yourself now as well.
I mean, I think it's a constant learning, process, as I'm sure you can imagine. But it's been so it's about coming up to a year and a half, let's say, that full-time freelance. And I still have times where my time management is a little bit all over the place. And I think one of the things, obviously, when you are freelance, as I'm sure it's the same for you guys, you are kind of available all hours to a degree. You don't have that set 9 to 5. So it's really easy to start keeping some really antisocial hours. So for me, it's an up and down journey, but certainly I've got a hell of a lot better with it. And I feel like at the moment, I certainly feel like, as I said, the key thing is I'm able to, if I want to make some time on a Friday afternoon and go and spend some time with my son, and we'll go off and go on a play date or something like that. That's amazing to me that we can do that. And it's not a big deal. I don't have to book holiday, and I don't have to plan too much around it.
It's true. The flexibility is just so freeing, isn't it? To just do what you want.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You said you started like a year and a half ago. You said you had some clients previously that you'd worked with when you were just testing the waters. How have you kind of built up your client base now?
So mainly, I mean, I started initially using freelance websites. So your Fiverr, your Upwork, these sorts of, where you can obviously find a million different types of jobs and roles. And I started there more, I suppose, to build, because the key thing for me was I needed to build up credibility, and I wanted to build up obviously good testimonials and case studies that I could use to kind of demonstrate my work to promote on social and things like that. So I did a lot of sort of smaller jobs to build that up in the meantime. A lot of very, very cheap jobs to get things, done and out the door. But, but it was really great for me because obviously it helped build up my client network. And then so I used a lot of that to promote my services. And then from there, it started building up a bit of a referral network as well. Because obviously the good thing is if you do, some good work for one company, they might mention it to another person. And I've been very fortunate that I've been able to get some really good work through that, and just through, constant communication and staying in touch with ex-clients and just staying at the forefront of their mind, so that as soon as they've got some sort of need, I'm hopefully one of the people they think of.
And tell us a little bit about the sort of copywriting and the content strategies that you do with helping build brands, for people who don't know what that is. What does that entail?
Yeah, so I mean, I think so. We have a lot of businesses, and this could be new businesses. This could also be established businesses that have been running for several years successfully, which is fantastic. But one of the kind of key sort of fundamentals, I suppose, to help with is a lot of the time, the founders of the business or the senior members of the business will have a very good idea of what the business does. They know it inside out because they live it every day. But it doesn't always mean it's easy to articulate to others what that business does. And, and a real key thing is obviously is we see as consumers, we consume so much stuff all day, every day. It's really hard to cut through the noise. And I think a key thing for me is that when you work with some really great brands who do some really good stuff, it's so sad if people can't find that out, because all they can base it on is what they see, how the brand is presented on social media, on email, any sort of advertising. So what I primarily do is, first of all, I help create that voice for them. So who are they? What are their values? What do they stand for? Why should anyone care what they do? Ultimately, why should it matter to us? Why should we want to buy into it? And then I help build that into, a fully fledged kind of plan of terms of, okay, cool, this is what you're all about. Now let's put that into social. Let's create an email campaign about that. Let's get people noticing who you are, but let's get them actually enjoying it and getting some value from what you put out there as well. So it really is giving a voice to companies when perhaps they either haven't got the resource or they just don't have a marketing person in place to be able to sit there and do that.
Yeah.
Mm. And in terms of content strategy, how would you summarize that as a job?
Yeah, it's basically it's dissecting the business in terms of if we take it to the basics, it's who do they want to sell to, who's their audience, who do you want to speak to, and getting to know that audience so well that we know how to speak to them, we know what appeals to them, we know how we can help them, and we make sure they know that we can help them. So that content strategy is all about stripping it right down to who that audience is and just making sure that everything we do is optimized to be talking to that specific person all the time, but in a way that person receiving it can actually enjoy the content as well. It's one thing to just always be selling and just saying, I'm great, I do this, but it's more about actually saying, no, how can we help you? And build them in organically, and get them to enjoy your brand. Again, it's really easy to scroll through social media. It's easy to you get a million emails in your inbox every day. Yeah. And we all tend to kind of only read certain ones because we get used to seeing certain things. We're like, oh, I like what that person does, and that's kind of what I help with. It's making sure that what you're saying is relevant and useful, and draws the right people in. So you're actually really make sure you're optimizing your marketing efforts in the right direction.
Yeah. That's cool. So essentially you want them, I guess, getting them to stand out in among of this congestion,
amongst the sea of all the other brands, all the other
and it sounds like a daunting thing at times, because I think also in the days of AI now, it's very easy to just build a lot of content, and AI certainly has its place with that. But you've also then got God knows how many other businesses that are going to be using the same terminology, the same use of language, in your industry, and you're all talking to your audience in the exact same way, which just makes it harder and harder to stand out. So again, it's really digging down into the values of that brand and saying, what does set you apart? Because let's go all in on that. And, people love brands that they can trust. And you've got to be authentic and genuine with that. And you've got to demonstrate value. Otherwise, people won't be as interested, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I love it. I get very geeky with the brands. I love it's one of the things I really love about it is the fact that I can work with different industries and things. So I get to learn about things that I might not have known before and really delve into it.
I mean, what kind of industries then do you work for or work in?
So at the moment, so it's, I've helped out like new fitness brands as they try and grow. I've helped recruitment companies. I've helped new sporting startups, like e-commerce businesses. It's a real range. Wow. I might one day be sort of researching the ins and outs of, I don't know, Dharma yoga and why it really is truly beneficial for you and why they created that. And then the next day I could be building out something that's focused on, I don't know, the new biscuit line that's coming to town and why is biscuits a fundamental part of our day. It can be such a range of things. And it's almost go on, sorry.
I was just going to say, it's so varied. It changes so much. I suppose you learn so much on the job, don't you? Because if you've never worked with certain brands like a biscuit brand or something before, at least then you get to know what's trending or what's like tasty in the
That's it, honestly. And it's so random because you might, a few months later, you obviously don't look at biscuits ever again. But it just makes life interesting, and I like doing that. And I said I suppose it's the helping the client side of it. I really love it when it feels like a light bulb goes off for them, and they're like, yes, that's exactly it. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to say, and I love that because I just feel like I've really been able to help them. And you can see for them, this is their passion, their business they've built. It means the world to them. They want to keep it growing, and if you can kind of help in some small way, then that means that that makes me feel good as well.
Yeah, definitely. Have there been any struggles in the last year and a half?
Oh, yeah, lots. It's a freelance is not, it's not an easy ride, but I'd say, one of the things I suppose I really definitely picked up on early on is it's always a weird feeling that when you're in a stable, full-time contracted job, you have a paycheck every month. It comes in on the 1st or the 31st, something like that. Now in freelance, obviously, it fluctuates, but also, you could do all the work and you could put out all the invoices, but it never means you're going to get all that money in. And that's such a strange thought. And it's a strange kind of world to live in, because you've just got to prepare for that. So, as much as you can put your forecast in place and have a pipeline, doesn't necessarily mean that's what it's going to end on. And I've definitely, I've experienced that, unfortunately, over the last year and a half. You have businesses that go out of business themselves. And unfortunately, that then is a domino effect towards all their suppliers. You have businesses that unfortunately can, and, that it just doesn't work out for, and you put a lot of time and effort into them, and it's there's a lot of lessons that I've definitely learned along the way in terms of, how best to use my time, but also how I approach them, and not to, just to focus kind of on the logic side and not get emotionally attached to a project that I'm working on, for instance.
It's true though, the emotional attachment. It's actually, we haven't spoken too much about it on
not on this series,
but it's true, you do have a connection with the project that you're doing, because I guess it's a representation of the work that you put out to the world, and it's a part of you, really, a piece of you. And you want people to like it, and you want people to connect, because you're providing a service to help someone else. And
but you can't take it. I think you can't take it personal. It's business, isn't it? It's like
business.
It's business. It's professional. It's not a reflection of you ever, regardless of what goes wrong. It's if you've put your best foot forward. It's
that's all you can do.
That's literally It's all you can do. Yeah.
That's one of the biggest lessons I've definitely learned, I think, is step back from that emotional. When these things happen, they happen. It's fine. Your focus needs to be, okay, well, what are we doing next month? What's going on there?
Next.
And believe in yourself as well. Know that if you put everything into it, that's all you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us then what the best part of the job is for you, and you can talk about all of your jobs, or you can just talk about one of your jobs if you want.
I think, I might have said it earlier, but I definitely think, I feel like the interlinking thing between the roles is that helping people. I get selfishly, I get such a, just such a buzz from helping people, as cheesy as that sounds, but it gives a lot to me, because I feel like what I'm doing matters. I know that might sound a bit silly, but it's something I've always said. I always want to feel like everything I'm doing is making some sort of positive impact. And it's just, whether it's helping a business, as I said, like particularly, if I help a startup build their marketing and feel like I've really made a difference to that business that are doing great things, and they're still running in 5-10 years time, that makes me feel good. Same as on the first aid training, if I can feel like people, leave the room feeling confident that they could one day help someone else, and they feel like they can actually create a safe space for someone to talk about how they're feeling, or God forbid something happens in the street and they need to jump into action, and they feel ready and equipped with the skills to do that. That's huge for me, and if I can help, anyone that I kind of work with to be able to feel that way and do that, then that's honestly, that's a massive buzz for me. And it makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing in my life.
It's fulfilling.
And I think it's the right, it's the right way to look at it as well. It's from that kind of, I want to serve people, I want to help them, as opposed to I just want to make money. Yes, of course we all want money, but I think it's if you're really helping someone, I think it's a beautiful reason to do it.
And
I think it's tricky, isn't it? Because it's, if you go just based on money, and again, obviously, it's easy to do that, especially when you go freelance, because you just think, right, I have these bills, I have these outgoings, I need to make sure, and you need to have a focus on that to a degree. But I think if money is your leading factor, you don't really enjoy the journey, on the way. And the problem is, I think, I think it can almost be a barrier for you, because you then struggle to grow because you're so focused on getting that bottom line. And that's a shame, because again, from 10 years time, I don't want to look back and think I just focused on money. I want to have some really great experiences and stories to talk about.
You spoke a little bit briefly about the sort of mental health first aid training and the different avenues you were going down with that. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and sort of the people that you've worked with that? How does it all work?
Yeah, it's there's so many sort of, as you said, there's so many avenues you can go down with it anyway. But primarily, so with the mental health, I work a lot with businesses, and it can take different forms. You can have, so thankfully, a lot more businesses are becoming more aware of mental health support and what they can provide to their employees, which is incredible. And realistically, ideally every business, as well as you would have a first aid trained person, you should have a mental first aid trained person, because ideally you need to have that individual that people can come to when they are struggling, when they are in crisis, and they can have that space. And unfortunately, a lot of businesses, that's quite a scary thing. It's quite a scary conversation for someone to come and talk to you about. So I work a lot with businesses, from almost a certification point of view. So we make sure there's a point of contact in their business that is a qualified mental health first aider. But then we can do more bespoke workshops, where I've worked with companies where it could be things, smaller groups, where you might have people that move into a management role, for instance. And that's quite a scary thing. If you've never managed people before, that is terrifying. And again, you want to make sure they're equipped with the right skills to kind of spot, I don't think that person's quite right at the moment. They're not themselves. How do I approach that conversation safely? And again, it's just giving them those skills to be the best manager they can be, but also crucially creating that safe space at work. If we spend most of our lives at work, and for those that are in the 9 to 5, hopefully they've got the right support around them. That means that they never feel isolated, and they don't feel like they just have to ride through whatever they're dealing with. I tend to help a lot of companies with that side of things. And then I work with local groups more in terms of just providing kind of basics of mental health support, in terms of, so local people who might run like a local youth activity centre or things like that, places where they're literally just providing like a good evening, a safe space for people to come and hang out and things like that. But again, it's that crucial training to make sure they can spot if they think something's not quite right. They want to be able to have the skills and the confidence to be able to go and talk to that individual. The worst thing we could ever do is we never want to feel like we missed an opportunity when we potentially could help. So again, that side of it's so varied, and I try and tailor it as much as possible. When I know that if I'm talking to a potential client and there's really specific areas they've said, we're worried about this or we're struggling with this, then I'll always try and tailor the training as well, make sure you've got your set curriculum for certification, but we'll always have an area where it's primarily focused on what they deal with every day, so that they can really transfer those skills over.
Yeah. That's wonderful. I wonder then, what would be your advice for freelancers? Because obviously we don't have a mental health wellness officer or anything like that, and obviously yes, of course we can go to therapy and stuff like that, but how would you suggest freelancers help themselves at work?
I mean, it can be such a lonely world as well, freelancing sometimes, can't it, as well? I would definitely say, I think a big thing is, and we don't rarely do this for ourselves, but have a self-care plan. Now, and that could literally be as simple as, right, having, taking that time for yourself each week where you go off and you have a bath, or you read, or you shut off from the world, or you go and see friends, whatever for you, whatever makes you feel good and makes you feel like you get that positive stimulation. Build time for that. But it's a lot of time, I think we don't think of it. We don't sit down and think of it as a tactic, as a self-care tool. It's just something we do. Whereas if we can try and make that time and really primarily channel it, there's a real positive to it, and that it's almost something in your toolbox. So when you're having a rough day, you think, right, what am I going to do to decompress from this? How am I going to, process this in my head? And if you go to that point and just go, you know what, I love my baths. I have my baths. I'm going to make time for that bath. And you start to approach it slightly differently, and it's just making that time to be able to just breathe and step back. There's other things that you can do. Obviously, I mean, breathing techniques are just a proven tool to use, and a lot of people, it can seem a little bit strange to do at times, but again, like, you know, if you find yourself in front of a laptop for long hours and you just feel like things are overwhelming, you know, these simple doing box breaths, or these count to 4, count in, count out, just stepping away, just regulating your heart rate, cooling your mind, you know, slowing everything down, even for just 5 minutes, can really make a big difference. And it helps you to step out of the bubble that you're feeling at that moment, you know, and remind yourself, right, you know what, I'm okay, I'm all right, I'm out of this world, I can come back in whenever I want. And it's just helping people feel like that, you know, there are tools out there. You know, as you say, therapy is fantastic, and obviously, you know, there's lots of opportunity and support out there, which is brilliant. But sometimes day to day, we just need to have that check in with ourselves as well, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I always find exercise is really helpful as well. Like, I spend so much time at my laptop. Like, it's my life.
So much time.
Like you.
These are our babies,
So it's like
know.
I know the feeling.
Forget to step away and just like look at outside your window for a second. So
like today, like we made sure we went outside, we took a walk.
Yeah.
You know, we was like, let's get outside, because being inside on your laptop all the time is not good.
Yeah. So I feel like the exercise part is really good, because you just forget, you know, like, especially when you're in that moment of that class or that treadmill run or that swim, you're just like,
you can't think about anything else.
So that's
just being outside, grounding, you know, and just feeling the fresh air, it just can make a really big difference.
I suppose, is that why then you are also a personal trainer? Is that why you connected into that realm? Tell us a bit about that.
Kind of, yeah. So I've always been interested in fitness anyway, and it's always just been a big passion of mine. And again, do you know what? I think I'm just a glutton for punishment. I love to learn things. So, you know, years ago, I took my personal training certification just because I wanted to better understand how our bodies move and you know, the mechanics of what we do and how it improves our physical health. And I just, you know, I developed a real passion for it. And again, I think it feeds into that first aid training. It's that physical health and mental health. And I love helping people. And so I do it online now, but predominantly I help a lot of people, particularly a certain group in like their menopause or menopause stage and things like that. Pre and postnatal as well. I took my pre and postnatal certification because, again, when I was pregnant, I wanted to make sure, although I had a pretty good, you know, idea of exercising while pregnant, I wanted to make sure I really understood it. So I studied that just to make sure I had all the right skills. And then I wanted to, again, be able to transfer that to others, because I knew firsthand how terrifying it is to exercise when you're pregnant, but also getting back to your old self once you've had your baby. It takes some time getting used to this new version of you. And when training and fitness is a big part of your life, like you said, you know, obviously you loved it, you know, training is a big thing. Getting back to it can be quite scary. So again, being able to give people that opportunity to feel like, it is possible, and give them a plan that they can follow and feel like they can get their life back to where they, you know, feel comfortable again. Again, selfishly, I get all the good vibes from it.
Yeah, but you're giving it to people as well. It's like acts of service, isn't it?
That's it.
And that's really, really nice.
I wanted to touch back on your freelancing career. And obviously you've come from a marketing background. Was it slightly easier to market yourself because of your background?
No, I'd say I was useless at marketing myself. And I think it's that typical thing of, you know, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I could talk to a client and just say, well, you need to be doing this X, Y, and Z. Da, da, da. And I think the problem is especially when you're sort of, you know, you're so focused on building your business, ironically, you're so focused on speaking to businesses and getting, chatting to them, da, da, da. You almost don't give yourself enough time to put some good, decent promotional content out there as well. So I would have to be really strict with myself to say, right, no, I'm sitting down for, you know, a day of content creation. I'm mapping out my plan. So I say, I mean, to some degree, in terms of tactics, I probably felt like I had a bit of an advantage because I kind of had a rough idea. I knew the steps I needed to take. For me, the challenge was probably it was being disciplined with the time and structuring my day to say, right, now you're going to focus on building your own business, because, you know, we might, you know, I was lucky enough to obviously have a few clients, as you say, like, you know, from referrals and things like that. But I need to make sure that's always going on. You know, you need to be ready for the next job that comes in and things like that. So you've always got to be promoting. So I had to get quite disciplined with myself to do that as well.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really is.
It's juggling like your life, your work, and then social media.
Yeah, that's it. Because I think marketing as well, like when you're marketing your own company or your own brand or whatever, it's like, it's hard to see the benefits sometimes as well.
Well, because it's personal, isn't it?
It is personal. Yeah, definitely. It's hard to like big yourself up, but I just mean like sometimes it feels like a thankless task of like, and then you don't really reflect on the fact that, oh, actually, I got that client from social media, and that's why I'm doing all this work and X, Y, and Z, you know, like, definitely.
I think there's a confidence to it, isn't it? Well, I feel like you second guess everything you're putting out there. Whereas again, like personally for me, you know, to a client, I could say, well, X, Y, and Z, these would be great topics for you to talk about. And I'll sit there and go, no, why, you know, you just overthink it all.
This is what we do with the podcast all the time.
We're like, is that good enough? Do we think?
Do we put this out there? Do we not? Do people like this? Is this of value? Is this hitting all our points that we want to hear? and then someone will ask me about, like, how do you do the podcast? I'm like, oh, you do this, this, and this. But like, then when we do it,
we're like, how do we do this?
So it's quite ironic, really.
I feel like collectively the entire world has some form of imposter syndrome. But it's almost ironic because we're all so focused on what we know about ourselves. No one is looking at each other.
Yeah,
that's it. We live in our internal world, and we're a lot more conscious of it than anyone else, because everyone else is also in their little internal world.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously you're a relatively new freelancer. What kind of advice would you give on your, you know, recent experience going into the world of freelancing? Someone thinking about it, maybe they're in a 9-to-5 job at the moment. What would you say?
I think first of all, I would certainly, personally, I would say, I think it's always scary to take the leap, obviously. And I fully appreciate as well. I think sometimes you can't just say, I'm just going to do it, because you do have to think, you know, responsibly, and, you know, you've got to think, plan ahead. But I would certainly say don't let fear, like we've just been talking about there, don't let the fear be the reason you don't do it. Because I just think, again, if you believe in what you're doing, if you've got a passion for it, then you're going to give it the best go you can. So I certainly say, don't absolutely do not let fear be the reason that you don't give it a try, because I don't think I always think back to, you know, in years' time, I want to look back and know that I've made the best use of my time, and that I did things that, you know, drove me and made me thrive as well. I would definitely also say processes, as boring as it sounds, get some processes in place. This is in terms of, you know, seeking clients, nurturing clients, getting content out there, things like that. Like, you've got to be disciplined. And that can be the hardest thing, because sometimes I think you can go, right, cool, day one, and you just sit there and think, crap, what am I going to do? Because you have all these sort of ideas of what you could do. And I think you need to almost have that discipline, sit down and go, let's make life easier. Get these processes in place. Like, you know, how I'm going to get these leads? How do I follow up on them? What does that look like? And kind of the more structure you add, the less it's taking up your headspace, and the less you're overthinking it then. And, you know, just the easier your life will feel. And I think that's a big part of it. You've got to, you know, you love what you do and you want it to build. You don't want to get bogged down almost with just feeling overwhelmed with everything that needs to be done.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. That's really good. Thank you. So what we usually do before we finish the interview is we do a guess game with our guests. Okay, so would you rather live on a peaceful tropical island or a bustling big city?
Oh, island.
Would you rather have to start a new job every year until you retire, or have only one job for your entire career?
Oh, new job every year.
Would you rather spend your money traveling the world but have few personal possessions, or have a really amazing house but never leave your hometown?
Oh, travel the world, certainly.
Would you rather have to wear all black every day for the rest of your life, or have to mix every colour of the rainbow into your outfit every day?
I'm black through and through, I'm afraid. So yeah, black every day.
Everyone far too many have said the same answer as you.
That's what I was
like. It's just so much easier.
Would you rather be able to talk with animals or speak every language?
Oh, talk with animals.
Would you rather always be 1 hour late or 1 hour early?
I am generally always late anyway, so perhaps 1 hour early just for the novelty.
Would you rather be covered toe to neck in tattoos or have one big face tattoo?
Oh, I think I would go for the face tattoo.
Oh,
controversial.
alternative. Why is that?
But you know why? Because I've just immediately had this image of going, well, it could be a really beautifully delicate, thin-lined, decorative tattoo. And it could be a piece of art.
There we go.
True. There we go.
Would you rather have to speak in rhymes or riddles for the rest of your life?
Oh, riddles.
Everyone would just have question marks on their head.
It really would be, though. No conversations would ever actually end.
No, ever. Would you rather have more time or more money?
More time.
And would you rather be a freelancer or PAYE?
Oh, a freelancer.
Yes. And for those who are listening who'd love to follow your onward journey, where can they find you on socials? So my marketing is Time for Copywriters. So that's on Instagram or Facebook. So it's just all one word, Time for Copywriters. And my first aid training is LifePlus training. So again, all one word, LifePlus PLUS training on Instagram and Facebook. And then my online coaching is LifePlus Fit App. So FITAPP. And again, Facebook and Instagram.
Amazing.
Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
No, thank you too. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to
Not the 9 to 5 podcast.
If you liked this episode, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel, where we release weekly podcasts every Monday.
Comment below to let us know who you'd like to see next on our podcast.
Give this video a thumbs up and maybe share it with a freelance friend or two.
Until next week, everyone.
Keep freelancing.